Whoa, we're back for some Bleach Soul Resonance, and I figured it's time to drop a little bit of an updated list now that Nelliel is out, now that Nelliel has shown that she is exemplary. Some of my thoughts have changed on just positionings mostly, because I do think Nelliel invites a conversation for the future that is interesting to me, right? I think that she presents, especially if we do end up getting Grimmjow next, she presents an interesting conundrum for players, because I do think she affects the game in an interesting way. I'm dropping this with 7 days remaining on the standard character, or I guess like the limited time character return banner. So this should come out in another day or two as of me recording, which means that, you know, you'll still have like 5 days or something like that to pull on this banner, reroll on this banner, etc., if you are interested. But instead of doing like usually what I do is sort of like a meta list where I'm just like, hey, these are the must-have units, these are the blank blah 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 units. I'm just gonna do a straight up tier list this time, and that's mostly because I think that we are far enough in the game, and especially for free to play, is that we can start talking like, you know, we can start talking turkey. So this again is going to be a free to play focus list. So if you are someone who's whaling or low spending or what have you, I mean, maybe for low spending, but if you're someone who's whaling or, you know, soft whaling, whatever, then obviously this is going to mean a little bit less to you. But if you're someone who is free to play, you're looking who to focus your Jade on because Jade is not infinite for you, then this is going to be the list. So let us get into it. And let's get to it. So I'm going to start from top to bottom, and we're just going to talk about the characters as they are. You can see that my placement is pretty harsh, I think, and it is ordered, I would say. I think I would call this ordered to my knowledge. Yeah, I mean, these aren't ordered. I don't care about these characters. This, like, this bottom row isn't ordered. Yeah, I think this is how I feel about the game overall. So, let's get going. Nelliel and Aizen. Well, this is no surprise. Nelliel is the best character in the game to me as of right now. This could easily change if in a week, or in 2 weeks, Grimmjow comes out, or, I don't know, Shunsui comes out, or some other DPS comes out that is non-ailment and specifically works with Aizen. The thing you could make, the compliment that you could pay to Nelliel is that she just does so much. Like, what a bomb of a character. I mean, 2 of the single best boundaries in the game, and they're up front. I think that's very important for a free-to-play player. And I know why you might be saying, like, oh, well, you know, boundaries are for whales. And it's like, it's not really that true. Because a boundary, like boundary 4 for Aizen, which makes him a DPS character, is more for whales. Is it saying that you can't reroll to get this, or save to get this, or what have you to get this? No. But all things being equal, this is not a hard thing to obtain, and in that respect, I just think Nelliel's absolutely decimates Aizen's, personally. She essentially has one that is very similar to Aizen's in that it helps her build up and get into her ultimate faster with less downtime. In Aizen's case, it helps him get into using his Hado and then doing the counterattacks and the like, but for Nell, this is it just rotates her so fast. And then part 2, 80% crit damage, rather 80% crit damage on a passive, on like a boundary, is fucking ridiculous. Who do I have a crit damage second piece on? Gein's second piece right here. My Gein's piece that has level 30, it has crit damage substat, and it gives 64% crit damage main stat, is giving 79.3% crit damage. She is doing that on a boundary. Huh? What? It's just too much. It's just too much. On boundary 2, no less. Like, I said it before, Nelliel's first 2 boundaries feel like genuine, like, boundary power creep. Because I think that these 2 boundaries are, for most characters, boundary 4 or like a boundary 6. Like, genuinely, I think for like a lot of support characters, you would probably see that see this one closer to boundary 4 than boundary 2. So yeah, I feel really strongly about Nelliel. I think this character is crazy, crazy, crazy. And I mean, and to talk about like if you were to be someone who like focuses a reroll just for Nell, and you want to make her your single target or your solo DPS with something like the Awakening 6, like if you know, just speaking hypothetically, if you wanted to just do nothing but hard reroll for a Nell account, you would just have the strongest account in the game. Like it is really hard for another free-to-play player to compete, to like outcompete you if you have like a Nelliel with dupes in her. And I said it before, I'm completely free to play. We're at 2,948 Jade. This was coming after pulling in my last summoning video after the first initial summons. So in total, I've used 17,000 Jade on this banner, I think, including one for weapon. So, you know, a pretty substantial amount, but I don't regret it at all. This character's fucking crazy. This will be going up after the tower video, but for example, by the way, I literally beat Tower 25 free to play. This is a completely free to play count. I beat Tower 25 floor 3. So like I'm done with this, and it's all on the back of Nelliel. And Nelliel was raising Gein's damage by like, I want to say like 50 million or something like that. Gein does so much more damage at B0, stamp 1, weapon 1 with Nelliel. It's crazy. It's absolutely absurd how strong this character is. And it sort of just brings me to my next point, which if I go back here, I have Aizen in the second spot. I do. I have Aizen in the second spot because, again, I am a free-to-play player. I think, and Aizen is amazing. There's, if you wanted to say Aizen's still the best character in the game because you have 4 dupes in him, sure. You know, if you're someone who hard rerolled for him or something like that, sure, right? I'm not gonna tell you no. Aizen is incredibly powerful. But what Aizen does for a free-to-play with 1 dupe, and what Aizen does for a free-to-play with 2 dupes is so much different, and I feel like kind of inferior to what Nelliel does with that same input. If I put 17,000 Jade into my Aizen banner, it looks way different than this. However, if I were to pull up over here, and you want to talk about like, well, my Aizen, I'm free-to-play, and you know, I went all in on Aizen's first banner, and then when he reran, I decided to get 2 more dupes or something like that as a free-to-play with Aizen. Then sure, we can start talking turkey. But I try to talk about the lower range of dupes when it comes to characters, and I try to talk about their B0 experience. And in that case, there's no way I can put Aizen over Nelliel. I do think that people are going to get really attached to Aizen in the long term, and the argument they're making right now, and I've heard Giku talk about this, which is, you know, it's true, is they're saying like, well, once a hit-based character comes out, then you'll just use Aizen instead of Nelliel, and Aizen will be back on top. And sure, but that's only if you think that after watching Nelliel be a stronger character than Aizen at early dupes, I think. That's only if you think that they will not release a power crept hit-based tactics character, which they 100% will. Whether it be Mayuri for strike or Soifon for strike, I could really see a Soifon tactics character who buffs like hit-based characters. That way she works with like Yoruichi. I could 100% see it. So if you believe that they will never go back to just like buffing crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent or something like that, then sure. But as it stands, I see Aizen, especially his early dupes, as inferior to Nell and her early dupes. And that's what I want to talk about when it comes to free-to-play, when it comes to getting a B0 character, a B1 character, a B2 character. You know, once you start, even if you are free-to-play and you save from now all the way to half anniversary or, you know, first year anniversary, where maybe we get like Okieta or Shunsui or, you know, Vasta Lord Ichigo or whatever you want to place in those spots, right? Even if you want to be one of those people, once we start talking about like B6 and even B4, we're not really talking about a free-to-play insight on a character. I would say that B1 and B2 are as free-to-play stretching as I want to get. When I came back and I talked about B1 Kenpachi and B2 Kenpachi, guess what I never did? I never went, oh yeah, you're going to want a B4 Kenpachi with 30% sever, and you're going to want B6 Kenpachi with free crit damage and ailment mastery, which stacks twice. I never bring that up. And it's because at most, this is the boundary you're looking at as a free-to-play player. Until a rerun, or until you decide to like re-roll and go like all in, I guess, on like a single character. But yeah, I don't believe in talking about too much further than B2. So in Aizen's case, an inferior B2, I would argue an inferior B1, and at B0, it's pretty close. I'm gonna have to go with Nelliel again, so yeah, it just ends up being the case that I think she is better. That said, I do think they're both, at this point, I would argue that they're both above the rest of the game. Even Urahara, who we'll talk about next, right? So let us get to Urahara here. So first and foremost, nothing wrong with Urahara, and he has not fallen in my esteem at all, period. The only reason I've dropped Urahara to the position he's in, or not dropped so much as I've raised Aizen and Nelliel up, is because I do think they completely define the game. That said, I do think Urahara is a better overall character than B0 Gin, than B1 or B0 Kenpachi, just because those characters look and act much worse without him. In the case of Gin, you could argue that, Rangiku is strong enough that this doesn't really come up, but I would still say that Gin is he's a focused DPS. He's just a DPS character, right? He doesn't really assist beyond that, whereas Urahara is just everywhere. He's eternal. He's the best character to pair with Nelliel. He's the best character to, still pair with Aizen. And if you're the best character with the two best characters in the game, and in reality, the DPS slot at that point is sort of up in the air, then I think you're better than the DPS. I think it's just how it goes. The great thing about Urahara is you don't need dupes at all. But again, he's a standard character, so you could just as easily try to continue pulling on the standard banner until you hit something like this. And if we get any more free, standard banner, pulls, like not pulls, but the dupe material that we got before, then we can talk about a character like Urahara being even better and better and better, especially as like all of his dupes are really powerful, right? All of his dupes are really powerful. So yeah, that's why Urahara, I don't think anyone's surprised by his placement. Gin and Kenpachi. So for a long time, I would say that Kenpachi was, in my eyes, the better DPS. For that, not a long time, those 3 weeks, I'd say Kenpachi was a better DPS post his buffs. I've since moved Gin up. The reason I moved Gin up, simply put, it's nothing to do with him, it's everything to just do with Nelliel. Gin's cycling, Gin's ease of use with Nelliel, Gin's ability to profit off of Nelliel's various buffs. Again, she is giving thrust damage here. She's still giving out tons of crit damage and things there. And within her own skill set, she's, dropping ailment resistance and, all these different things, right? So it's just one of those things where once you sort of see it, and actually it's, I believe it's here. She's also giving the all type resistance here. Once you sort of see it play out, it's hard to deny that Gin is just a free-to-play, at a free-to-play level, because I am still referring to people who want to start right now, who want to reroll on the return banner, who want to grab Nell, etc., etc. If you want to grab Nell, and you're going into this banner, then you click here, and you click on Gin, right? If you have Kenpachi, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you were to reroll right now, you just want Gin, and you just want Nelliel, because it makes your game, it makes your team so much better immediately. It's just the strongest team in the game, and if you're a part of the strongest team in the game in any of these gacha, then you deserve a little bit of a bump. We'll just go right into Kenpachi, which is, Kenpachi is a monster. This is no shade to Kenpachi. Kenpachi is my favorite character in the game right now still, and I don't feel any less about him. It's just that Gin is the best DPS to pair with Nelliel, I think, at least right now for myself. Especially if you don't, I have Boundary 1, but I have Boundary 2, right? So, maybe if I had that Boundary 2, maybe if I had that Boundary 6, these benchmarks that aren't for real free-to-play players, then we could have a discussion. But as it stands, I think the issue with Kenpachi is just that he's a little more demanding on screen time, and I think he's very good at swapping out, but he is a tad more demanding on screen time than Gin is, because Gin is doing a lot of his damage off the field with Impale. Kenpachi does need to cycle in a few more times. He does need to absorb more of that strain on your swaps, and that combined with someone like Urahara, who needs to plant down his technique and then use his ult and then do 2 of his cry out Benihimes, you sort of start seeing like, oh, I'm running out of time on field, right? And I'd rather just be in Nelliel, getting basics off, going into Seto, going into Resurrection and things like that. So that's just where I'm at. We can move on to Toshiro here. So Toshiro is a character that, by my own admission, I did not go out of my way to pull for his weapon. I did recently get his core stamp. If I regret pulling for one character, and I say this even as someone who doesn't have, I don't have Boundary 4 Aizen, he's not my solo DPS and stuff. As a free-to-play player, if I could pull back all of the Jade I spent on Toshiro, and I don't think I went to pity or anything on him, I would 100%. And the reason is mostly because I could have put those Jade into Aizen. I could be putting those Jade into Nelliel. I think with Toshiro, I really just want, the game was new. I didn't really have any unique SSRs. I didn't have any limiteds because I decided not to reroll for Bankai Ichigo. I decided it was, I just didn't feel like it, honestly. I usually reroll in every gacha I play, but I just didn't feel like it. So I think I just wanted to pull something because Toshiro was second, and I kind of wish I didn't have him. He's not bad or anything. I mean, my stats are really paltry, so he could definitely be better, especially in my case, but I have not felt the desire to give this guy anything. I have not felt the desire to raise any of his gear. He's just sort of a fill-in character, and it mostly comes down to this gives him all damage when entering Bankai, or all damage by 20%, and 3 ice bosses when you enter Bankai. It also gives him 40% crit rate whenever you use a technique or a counter attack, which you're always doing, and it goes up to all technique damage, and it goes up to an insane crit damage as well, and you need his weapon. The second character released, essentially, definitely getting gapped, even if I were to have him, and whoops, I misclicked. Even if I were to have him at Boundary 2 where he gets his crit rate, he's still getting gapped by Gin. He's still getting gapped by, if I decided to put that same amount into Boundary 2 Kenpachi. So for Toshiro, I do kind of regret summoning him. I don't think he's bad at all. I just wish I had the Jade. That's really where I'm at. Bankai Ichigo. I can't really go to Bankai Ichigo because I didn't reroll for him, so I didn't feel like it. Bankai Ichigo is sort of the same story with Toshiro. I don't have much to say about him other than I think he demands a lot more time on field than the other DPS, which is not good. I've played him in events. I've played him with limiteds, with trial characters when you have to do certain events. I just think that he can be a little cumbersome. He can be a little annoying to get damage, and especially when you compare him to Kenpachi or Gin, it's like it's a little more annoying to get damage, and they're getting the damage completely free. So it's just like, we thought he'd get like a buff or something. He doesn't really need one. I mean, he needs one because he's not as good as Kenpachi, who is like the de facto red, slash DPS. But I mean, he's fine. It's a gacha game. He's gonna get power crept. That's just how all these characters will not be good in a year, right? In a year, every single character on here will probably not be good anymore. So it is what it is, but it's just like, yeah, he could have used something. Still not a bad character. All these characters are still in S tier, so I'm pretty high on them. But Tosen, I think you're a really good character. Tosen is very powerful. Tosen gets no complaints from me. Tosen's main issue is that this character is a fucking bomb. And I'm just going to sum up my feelings on Tosen really quickly with, when the battlefield skill Flash Strike hits, enemies with more than 10 stacks of wound will remain after the skill ends. That's okay. Increases the wound damage of the battlefield skill Flash Strike by 100%. I guess that's okay. So Tosen just said, I want to do two very selfish things. And he is a standard character, so it is different. However, Nelliel says all characters in the team deal more thrust damage. Her own battlefield skills, all of them, increase by 50%. And she gives you 80% crit damage. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to realize why this character cannot go any further than he is. And I'm putting him where he is because even he's not like phased, he's not useless. If you want to skip Nelliel, if you really feel that strongly, your count's not going to like flounder. But as a free-to-play, the one benefit is he is a free-to-play character. He's a standard banner character, so the likelihood of you getting a B5 Tosen, a B6 Tosen, a B4 Tosen is pretty high. But look at all of the things he does. It all says me. Kaname Tosen's ailment damage, wound damage, you know, like after releasing the ultimate Flash Strike. It's very selfish, and the sub DPS can't afford to be selfish. Next, we move on to Rangiku, Yachiru, and Momo. We're going to do these in a batch. I'm going to call these the support girls. So, why Rangiku? It's pretty obvious. I think she's the best because she... One, actually, you know, I don't want to take anything away from her. One, we got her from completely free for Boundary 6. Even if you start new, I think you get 2 of her or something like that. I think she should also be on the banner right now. Is she not? Am I crazy? She is on the banner right now. So, one... Boundary 6 Rangiku is very attainable even if you start late. 2, Boundary True Rangiku grants ailment damage bonus equal to 30% of Rangiku's ailment damage bonus. You get a core stamp really easily, it goes to 44%. You get a weapon, and you get a bunch of bonus effects increased on like Ash Blade and thrust damage received and things like that. You can't stop her channeling her actual technique anymore, which means that you can go to you can be dumping out damage, playing the backline, and the only stats you need on this character, you do not need any other stats on this character but ultimate charge rate and ailment damage. And all she does is she comes in, she presses this button, you swap out, she gets ult, you press it during any attack that's happening, she swaps out. And I mean, Rangiku actually has a smoother game plan than Kisuke. Like, did we get that? Like, you can cancel this technique insanely fast. Kisuke actually, and if you might be thinking like, what? No one has a better game plan than Kisuke. Like, Kisuke actually takes way longer, if by comparison, to get his damage out. Rangiku, you literally never see her. You essentially never see this fucking character. It's amazing. To that effect, another one who's very strong for that reason is Yachiru. Yachiru, again, a very easy character to just come up on. I mean, when we were in the midst of the Kenpachi patch, I ran her with this setup: 111 gear, 1 stamp, awaken to 5, her weapon stamp, awaken to 5, and her stats absolutely abysmal. And she raised Kenpachi's damage by, you know, tens of millions. And it comes from, I think it will be placed here, exclusive C. When Kenpachi Zaraki is in the team, the bonuses from spectate and inspiration on him are increased by 1.5 times. It's because she just has like this insane adjacency to Kenpachi that's really powerful. And this is, by the way, again, with all of her skills down. Like, these are not raised skills. So I think she's really strong. The reason I'm putting her up here is because I think, for what it's worth, she affects Kenpachi's game plan more than Momo, I think, affects like Aizen's game plan. I don't really want to put Momo on a team unless I'm using Toshiro, and I already don't think that highly of Toshiro. I also think that her overall game plan is kind of sticky and slow. Her boundaries are really good, I just don't have that much. Specifically, this one's not good. Specifically, it's 6, right? Isn't this one really good? Each set maximum number of insight stacks. Reaching maximum insights. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. I thought her. Oh, it's this one. It's okay. It's actually the first one. Her first boundary is really good. Maybe like her other you could talk about. She does give crit rate right here, which is really good. So getting bonus ascensions on this is good. But beyond that, I mean, I don't want to run this character with Aizen. I want to run Urahara with Aizen. And I want to run this character with Toshiro, but I don't think that highly of Toshiro, so I think she just falls to a lower seat for me. Yoruichi. Yoruichi, I think, is pretty good. The reason I think Yoruichi is worse than the support gang is because you just want to use Yoruichi less, if I'm honest. I don't know if that's controversial, but I do have some boundaries in her. This one is really good for raising her lightning seal, which gives her crit rate when you have her like weapon and such. I think this one would be really strong. This one would be really strong if you could get it. And obviously she is a free-to-play player or character. Because she's a free-to-play character, she's a limited character, or she's not a limited character, she's a standard character. It means that I will kind of talk about her other boundaries as you will just get them over time, and I think it does matter. Her core stamp is really good, and I mean, do you really want to be putting a lot of core stamp like tickets into hers though? Again, her weapon is really good, but do you really want to be, I mean, they're free to play like characters, so you could just go for her weapon and go to like I think it's like 30% at max or something like that crit rate, which is really good. But yeah, I think this character just does less damage than other characters. I think she's just simply not as good as Kenpachi. Like even 44,557, and I think she is remarkably worse than 38,622 Kenpachi with you know, with less boundaries, less awakenings on weapon, less core stamp. But I do think that she is good. I do think flatly Yoruichi is good enough to put in the S tier, because she's also just sort of behind. I mean, who else are you going to use when it really comes to strike, right? So it is what it is, really. Byakuya. I don't like Byakuya that much. I think this character is sticky. I think this character is like, sort of like annoying to use. I think he has a problem with his old timing. All of the issues that I would have with like maybe having like a Urahara are like 3 times as bad. Urahara does not take much time on field, but he does take a little bit of time on field. Byakuya takes a lot of fucking time on field. I think that his battlefield skill is just worse than our limited characters, obviously. He is a standard character though, so we can't talk about his boundaries. I do think his boundaries are fine. This one is good because it allows you to get right into the special attack once you're in Bankai. This one is a damage one, but again, it's giving him crit damage. It doesn't raise all damage, but it is also giving him crit damage. Technique scatter, yeah, Nasira 100%. Yeah, it's damage for him, and then it's reduced, but I don't like it. It's like, it's very the standard characters in this game, the standard SSRs tend to just get very selfish awakenings, and I don't think that's enough to push them over, especially when it comes to the sub DPS and the supports. I would always rather them to just get this, right? I never want my standard characters to just be doing more damage. I don't care about them doing more damage. That is just my purview. That is my observation. So, but I do want to bring it up because again, they're standard characters, so you will have access to these more often. But yeah, I just think Byakuya is sticky. I think that we'll be getting another Byakuya who's like just a DPS or true support, and he'll be literally broken. He'll be completely broken. The first time we get a Byakuya who is like a limited SSR, he's going to be completely broken because he's very popular. And I think that about every single one of these characters, Awakening Ikkaku, Transformation Kaname, you know, Transformation, or I guess like Awakening or what have you in the TYBW Sajin, all of these characters, Urahara will one day get a limited SSR and he's going to be broken. Maybe the one who shows up and confronts Aizen, things like that. Like, We'll see it eventually, but for now, eh. And Komamura. Komamura arguably should not be in this row with anyone else. And I actually... Nah, I just don't know why you would use them. Nah, yeah, never mind. I'm not going to move them up. Komamura is pretty good for one thing and one thing alone, which is that if you have one boundary of him, he gives 40% crit damage to his shielded characters. This character is limited, or not limited rather, he's standard, which means you will have access to these boundaries, so we can talk about them. Increased damage, I don't care. Increased damage, I don't care. And build-up gained is pretty good, honestly. Increases build-up stack cap to 16. This could be good. I think that might affect his each stack of build consumed triggers an extra strike that deals 16. Okay. I thought it also affected his strike resistance down, but maybe it doesn't. That said, I do think that his weapon giving strike down and his core stamp giving strike resistance down is really good, but it's the same song and dance, really. I just don't really see what this character has that is so invaluable. And I guess we'll move on to Ikkaku in the same breath, which is, again, standard character, so you'll end up getting access to his boundaries. He's a character that, because he's a DPS, him being selfish makes sense. Him being selfish means that if you have a B6 Ikkaku, then he's trying to help only himself. He's trying to make himself stronger. He is working for, he's in business for himself, and it makes sense as a DPS. Whereas a lot of these other characters who are supports, you know, the Komamuras, the Tosens, etc., them being in business for themselves is bad to me. I've taken all my gear off him, which is why he's so low, by the way. But Ikkaku just has the issue where I think he's on field a lot. And if you were to run this character with Nelliel, you're kind of just sacrificing him for her anyway. I just don't think Ikkaku has the juice. I think it would take pretty small amount of changes to make him work a little better. But the moment Gin came out, and Gin literally takes like 1.5 seconds on field every, you know, this and that amount of time, versus Ikkaku having to slam down basic attacks. It's like, nah, dog, I'd rather just be a Nelliel. I'd rather just have Nelliel going. I'd rather just have Aizen going. He's just sort of a character that you can tell they made early. Ikkaku is the definition of, when they were developing this game, they developed this game with him early on, because he doesn't have any of the upsides that a lot of stronger characters do. And I would call these the leftover supports. And we're just going to go through them really quickly because there's not much to say about them. So Orihime's up here because I do think that her all-type damage is really nice. Beyond that, we just don't have the desire to sort of have a healing character in the game. Tsubaki's support addition increases the current character's attack by an extra, you know, so on and so forth. I think this might get up to like 40%. And yeah, max HP is literally nothing. And this is nothing. And this is nothing. These are like shields. Like, these are shields and armor and stuff. It literally does not matter. What does her weapon do again? Hits back at the attacker. Nothing. And is this one give support? 3 ultimate energy? No. So it's just one of those things where once you have all these boundaries, you know, we might be talking. She has a revive. That's literally nothing. This is nothing. This is nothing. And this is nothing. I mean, this is fine. Increases duration of Tsubaki's support. So you're really just playing Orihime for this and this. The reason I have her sort of high up comparatively is just because I think that you can get away with needing to put this character in the support slot, because let's be honest, okay, you have 3 teams in mind. One of them has Urahara in it, one of them has Rangiku in it, and then you can either use Yachiru, Momo, Nemu, etc. Using Orihime, not a bad choice there. I mean, she's just giving flat damage, right? I would say use Yachiru every single time, but say you don't have her with her core stamp and stuff, you're a new player. If you have your Orihime, you can throw her on there. She's literally just giving buffs. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to work for them, right? So that's why I have her up there. The next one I have built as well was Rukia around the time of the Toshiro release. And this character's good, but I mean, do I even need to say it? Like, I don't think I need to dwell on this one. You get why this character's not going in. Again, Yuryu was replaced by Tosen literally the moment you hit him on standard anyway. Again, there's just not much to say. Rukia is a worse all-type than the other all-type in the game, as well as the other more niche tactics like Tosen or something. And Uryu is just worse than Tosen and Byakuya, etc. So it's just like not really room there. And the reason I have Nemu as sort of the worst one is just, I think even with the other characters having a really hard time making a go of it, this character takes so much time on field. It's so annoying. I've tried to make this character work, and you do get a nice cheeky swap as her first appearance, and it's not too bad. But at some point, you will be on the field with Nemu pressing basic attack. And I think being on the field with your support pressing basic attack is literally the worst place to be at in the game. And none of the boundaries really fix that. This is really good, I will say, by the way. If you do get this one, getting upper body and lower body immediately and getting like ultimate energy, that's pretty good. So I'm not going to say that. But again, increased damage dealt by special attacks. And it's like, no. Spiritual pressure every second. No. Like, these are really bad boundaries outside of boundary 6. So while boundary 6 is definitely attainable, I just see her as being very clunky, and she's already on sort of the worst team. It just is what it is. Nemu, I love you. I mean, you're higher than a lot of the other sports I have, but I can't really put you that high. And then we got filler. These characters really don't matter. Ultimately, these are just here that once you start the game, you're going to be using some of these. But if you're re-rolling, hopefully not. Hopefully we get an SSR Chad and an SSR Renji sooner rather than later. I think these characters are criminal for kind of being really far out. Like, I don't see us getting a Renji SSR or a Chad SSR for maybe a year. Genuinely. People always talk about like, oh my god, they're burning through hype. They're gonna burn through all the hype characters and then what? And it's like, no, dude. Renji does a lot actually in the series. Chad also has like 3 forms he could take easily. I think Chad could easily, and I'm not talking like those forms all being DPS. I'm saying he could get 3 new different forms, and then those all could be like supports or tactics or DPS or what have you. So, like, I think that's the same with all these characters. So, yeah, that's my list. That's my explanation. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this little talk along. Would I change anything? No, not really. I mean, I could put, no. I was gonna say I could put her here, but I don't know. It's when the issue with like these supports who are left over, and this will be my closing thought, is we have 3 of them who are so good. So why would you ever reach down here? We literally have 3 of them. They're all very free to play friendly, and you could have them all on nothing gear. They don't need any gear really, so it just is what it is. But yeah, I've been Lone. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to join the club. We all go make it, and peace.